This is Don't Panic, episode number 386, recorded June 10th, 2024. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast that brings you its 11th annual WWDC keynote. I'm Sean Jennings, joined by a man who's excited to create Genmoji in the image playground with Apple Intelligence. It's Dan Miller. Good evening, Dan.
What's up? This is my favorite show. Is it my favorite or is it my second favorite after the thing in January with all the stupid gadgets? CES.
CES. I mean, those really are the only two themed things we do, so I would hope that's in your top two. Yes, and our year in review. No, this is like I said, our first ever episode on the show was covering WWDC 11 years ago. Crazy enough. I put it's like some weird, I just have to do it. I always go look at the first episode when we do one of these. And I just threw a screenshot in Slack of a screenshot from the recording of that episode. First of all, it's hilariously blurry because I exported them in way too small a size. But what's incredible about this is it's the screenshots from the announced iOS 7, which looks like trash in hindsight. But it was pretty cool at the time. But what I also love is up in my bookmarks bar, I still have Yahoo and Google Plus bookmarked, and Laundry View. So
Yahoo's the one that's the most surprising to me.
I don't know what I was doing, and it wasn't Yahoo Mail because I had Gmail by then. So it must have just been Yahoo proper.
And you're a learned man, so you've got Wikipedia bookmarked. So you don't have to Google for the Wikipedia.
I have
you
Amazon.com
can just go straight there.
Bookmarked. Yeah. And I have the Netflix extension plugged in because I believe that was the only way to watch it in a browser at the time because that was a new functionality.
Right. Looking at this screenshot, I actually think iOS 7 mostly looks the same. I don't think it looks bad at all. Control Center, though, I have no memory of Control Center having this like stainless steel glass look.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does work, but yes, the Control Center looks crappy. I believe I have the world's worst memory, so I could be just making this up. I think they fixed that pretty quickly in an update. I don't think that went well. It was hard to read. And so I think they updated that pretty quickly and got rid of it.
The other thing that jumps out to me is I assume this is Chrome, and the design of Chrome, it's very obvious which tab is selected. How does that look in Chrome today?
Well, it's also very angular. The tabs are like trapezoidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's funny. I started watching a couple of the other new episodes from back then, and there's a bunch of screenshots that are just awesome. Like of me holding up my phone and scrolling on it, and it's iOS 7, and I'm gonna maybe pull one every week for us to look at.
We are really the historians of the modern era.
I mean, honestly, no one's covered it as in-depth as we have. We have seen it all.
Something I was thinking about today, how presumably we power ChatGPT and Apple Intelligence.
We must have been scraped at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're welcome.
We made it stupider. I don't know if we were a value add, but...
Well, I mean, that's a whole thing. Actually, I watched two really funny, somewhat funny, one was an article and one was a video. There's an article that a friend wrote today that I'll pull up after. But it was, someone was making this claim like, generative AI, it's not that helpful. But if you constrain it in these ways, it is helpful. And here's how you can use it to, if you look at scientific papers in the past, they were all about a given subject. Some of them turned out to be wrong. Without the knowledge of which ones were wrong, can it predict which ones were incorrect? Just given the information available at the time, and this paper purports to have shown that it could do that. And so my friend wanted to do that, but for papers on how AI works today, and showed that given how he prompted it, he was able to convince the AI, the quote AI, to give him whatever result he wanted, really, as long as you just slightly varied how you were asking the question. So I thought that was funny. And the second one was, this is going to get really nerdy, Sean. Are you ready?
Okay, I'll back up.
You know how you're using Microsoft Word? You ever think about this and you type in a word and then suddenly Microsoft Word is like, there's not enough room on this line for this word. I'm going to put this word in the next line. You ever think about how that works? It's actually it's like pretty complicated.
I have to admit, I never have.
Well, there are people out there who think about how this works. And you ever like download a scientific paper and it has that certain look with like the columns and the figures? Like it's never like a Microsoft Word document where the text takes up the whole width of the page. It's always columnar.
Yeah, absolutely.
When people write those things, they're using a programming language to do it often because they want to specify exactly where, like, okay, this math equation needs to go exactly here, but they don't want to specify exactly where the words go. So they're like, and I'm sure like front page works like this too. Here's some text, make it fit in here. And then you can say like, I don't want any line. What do they call it? Where you put the dash in the word?
Like a line break, a hyphenated sort of.
Don't break up any words or do. Or anyways, there's all these different algorithms for doing that. And so someone was like, who writes these papers and is very persnickety about how they should look, was like, well, you know what LLMs are really good at is taking text and turning it into different text. So what if my programming language that specifies how to lay out my scientific paper isn't constrained only by the words I've written? What if I could tell it, for example, I want all of my paragraphs to take up the entire width of the box that they are in, edge to edge, and I want every line to be a full line. Reword all of my paragraphs so they're all boxes, basically. And then he showed this demo where he could like shrink and expand the column width, and the AI would reword what he said to probably shittier and shittier summarizations as it gets narrower and narrower. And I thought that was that was an interesting use of AI. So anyways,
believe it or not, Dan, that's what like my job is. Except I do it like I do design documents and columns in InDesign and stuff. And I literally went to my graphic designer the other day and I was like, oh, here on the document where it says rapid drawing, I want it to say, fast acting or whatever. And he was like counting the number of characters and he's like, oh, it's not going to line up. It's one letter too big. And I'm like, so I have to like change the word I'm using and so we did that in real life. I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of get the idea. That's actually not the worst idea.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think we should just get started.
Yeah, no Colby. Reason Colby. Not determined. He is MIA, but
hope everything's okay, Colby. Future Colby.
Yes, he might be watching us live on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, for all we know. Just enjoying the evening off. Let's dig in here. So WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple, usually where they announce all their fancy software stuff. And this year is no exception. Dan, I think I'm going to just loosely go in order, but yeah. I'm also going to skip over a bunch of boring stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So
what document are you going off of, by the way?
I'm just going off of this like biggest announcements Verge article.
Okay, I'm going to go off that too.
By the way, I did realize, remember when they used to give updates on the stores?
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore, but they used to be like, we opened a new store in Milwaukee this year.
Well, the new store is Apple TV.
Basically, staring into your living room.
Plus.
Apple TV Plus, which didn't really... They announced that new movie with George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
I skipped that part. So.
Yeah, so we'll go right on to Vision OS 2.
But wait, is there a new Severance trailer? Is there a release date for the new Severance?
There was a Severance image that was released that you can look up, but there was no video trailer released.
All right.
They're being awfully coy. Sorry. I know this is disappointing. Vision OS 2 for the Vision Pro. Some new features, an ultra-wide virtual Mac display, new intuitive gestures, travel mode for trains, machine learning to bring depth to existing photos, and new options for recording immersive video, and it's being rolled out in more countries.
Yeah, so I read someone tooting about this on Mastodon. They downloaded the beta and tried the spatializing thing, and they thought it was amazing. So that might be a sleeper hit because viewing it is a lot of. We have all these photos, and I think Apple's been doing more stuff to surface the provide quote value. Like, hey, look, remember this photo, and that's cool. But it sounded like it's a lot of fun to pull up an old photo and stick it into this thing and look at it. So it's not a reason to buy a Vision Pro, but it looked cool.
Yeah, it seems like a logical addition. I mean, it's only the second version of the software ever, so it was a lot of kind of straightforward stuff. I'm curious if the machine learned images brought to life, if they actually look good or they look like those cheap effects you see.
The one I read said it looked really good. It looked just as good as if they had done the spatial photo with the phone. Well, because I think it's pretty impressive. You know how you can hold down on like a person in a photo and it pops out? I think that's sort of the basis for this, with a little bit of extra, like, okay, what do you think the side of Colby's head looks like? Which is a question we all ask ourselves.
Well, I still am delighted when I clicked on this photo of you that you sent me, Dan, on your new outdoor sofa, and it started to move because it's a live photo. I'm like, oh, I forget that that's a thing. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that works.
And I'm excited about, I think, one thing I was frustrated about with the Mac Vision OS integration is that it's mostly kind of constrained to like a regular Mac screen. And so that they're branching out into like, what if you could have like, Apple does not sell an ultra wide Mac screen. Now you can get one. Hopefully this opens the door for you to have like 5 ultra wide Mac screens, whatever you want. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, and I do think, they always do that slide at the end where there's several other features they didn't make a big deal about, but that they're also adding.
Yeah.
And I believe mouse support was on there. And there was another... I was going to see how quickly I could get to the...
I wish someone would just collate all of the here's what we didn't have time for slides, because as a nerd, those often have the most interesting things for me.
I 100% agree, and some of the features I'm going to talk about in this episode that I'm excited about came from those slides.
Yes, same.
So it's pretty cool. Mouse support, multi-view and live TV app, the new gestures. Anyway, we don't own one, so what are you going to do? Moving on to more things that are just meh. watchOS 11. Automatically adding widgets based on when it thinks you need them, as well as support for live activities, which I have to be honest, I kind of am surprised they didn't support already. A new Vitals app that will sort of collect and collate some key metrics, make it a little easier to find what's going on with you. Some new workout stuff, including training load for when you're training for events and such. Also, check-in is compatible. Cycle tracking updates for pregnancies, among other things, some new watch faces, etc.
Yeah, I don't remember if they talked about this here, but that they Sherlocked All Trails, I'm excited about. Unfortunately for All Trails, all I want is the map. And so I'm excited to get a map in Maps app. I can presumably download it for offline use. It's going to be great.
Yeah, agreed. Adding some new functionality to Maps. Pretty good. Moving on, we'll talk about iPad. Let's talk about iPad.
Okay.
Because we'll talk about all the iOS stuff it's getting separately, but just for iPad, and I know, Dan, this is like number one on your wish list, calculator. Finally.
So... actually, and someone tweeted about this when like MKBHD asked, I remember if you remember this interview, he was like, why isn't there a calculator app for the iPad? And they're like, oh, well, we want to do it we only want to do it if we can do it really well or differently. And I think they, to their credit, they did. And the live notes thing where you can basically take math notes like you might take in school with plus signs, or like you put a bunch of numbers on top of each other, draw a line underneath them, and it will automatically sum them up. But also you can like create variables, and you can create graphs, I think, and
Yes.
you can change the variables and watch the graphs update. I think that's awesome. That's 100% up my alley. It's one of those things we probably talked about on the show, the talk from a guy who used to work at Apple like 15 years ago, Brett Victor, media for thinking the unthinkable. Like, why are our computers mostly simulating paper? Why is the media that we use to communicate not more interactive? Why am I reading an email, which is basically a printout of some text that someone wrote? Maybe it includes an image. It definitely doesn't include a video. Never mind something like, here's this model I made, and you can like interact with the sales figures right in the email. That doesn't happen. So yeah, this is great.
Yeah, there are a couple features, this among them, that may finally get me to move from my Remarkable tablet to an iPad, because I actually do write a lot of numbers and then have to separately add them up. So Math Note's very cool. In addition, just on iPad, a new screen sharing feature in SharePlay that allows you to remotely control another person's iPad, which is cool. And really the other major thing is Smart Script in the Notes app. I'm not sure if it's I think it is iPad only, that improves the appearance of your text as you write. It can recreate your own handwriting style as well as spell check and transform type text. Easily able to remove things, shift them around, but all while remaining with your handwriting.
Which looks pretty cool. Saved my ass in school.
Well, I'm like, how does a math teacher like ever like? I was talking to somebody the other day, no joke, about graphing calculators, which is a huge scam. It's like the biggest scam on planet Earth these days. And schools still require they buy them at like $100 a pop. It's great. And by the way,
I really need to meet the Texas Instrument lobbying team. Those guys got to be top notch.
The cost must have come down so far. They must cost like $10 each. Like the margins must be crazy because they haven't changed in a decade
to make, right? Like,
yeah, it's a huge scam. So they can just do it all on your iPad, which I think is great. So that one's pretty cool. I did want to quickly mention, we did talk about Apple TV. Apple TV Plus is getting a new feature called Insights, which if you used Amazon's X-Ray, it's exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Where it'll tell you...
Does this only work for Apple TV? The Apple TV service?
I believe it only works for Apple TV Plus content.
Okay. That's
not
too
all
bad.
content.
It would be cool if this were a pluggable thing in the video player.
I'm assuming that it's all manually plugged in when something is put up on Apple TV Plus. I don't think it's scanning the screen to find Kristen Wiig in the show you're watching. That's just a guess.
But that would be cool. But I'm sure that when they label these things, that is what they're doing. They're not having someone
that's what
label
Amazon's
frame
doing.
by frame.
Yeah. But automating it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about maybe the thing I most loved about this announcement. Can you guess what it is?
No, I can't.
Well, Sequoia.
Oh, maybe we both love the same thing the most. Let's see.
I'm very excited because there was a bunch of really cool stuff. We'll skip all the Apple Intelligence. We'll save that for later. But for right now, big things, iPhone mirroring. I have always said the biggest miss is not getting my mobile notifications on my Mac. I would have been fine with just that. But they rolled out iPhone mirroring, which lets you access and control, essentially use your whole iPhone from your Mac, including audio. Your notifications will pop through. You can drag and drop content between the devices. You basically use your whole phone right on your Mac, even while your phone stays locked. We've always said when are iPhone apps coming to Mac, they kind of just all did. And I am like going to use this feature constantly.
So when do you imagine using it? Like the notifications totally make sense, but when do you imagine using the mirroring thing?
I mean, just to like, I just think a lot of mobile apps are like Instagram. Like I would just look at Instagram instead of picking up my phone. I would do it on the computer. Or if I got a message in an app that wasn't Messages, I would not go to facebook.com to answer a messenger message. I would just do it in the mobile app. Like, again, I'd have to see how the experience is. I would bet on like a touchpad, it's very good. I'm curious how it is with a mouse. But you can type better into it because you have a full keyboard. I just think like now I'm looking at the computer. If I'm using the computer, I don't want to touch my phone. I will do everything. Now, if I'm away from my computer, different story. I mean, is this something you think you'll use?
I wasn't thinking that I would use it too much, but when you mentioned the typing thing, the number one reason that I'm aware of why I don't use the journaling app on iOS is because I don't want to type anything of length into the journal app. And as far as I know, I haven't heard today that the journal app is coming to Mac OS, which seems insane. But if I can open it on my Mac, then I guess I can type as much as I want.
Yep. Yeah, I'm curious to see how smoothly it works, but being on the computer and I can just think of a lot of ways to use that. So I'm excited, and continuity usually works pretty well. So also in Mac OS, I guess I'll just talk about it now. It's kind of across the whole line. Passwords, the new Passwords app. It's a standalone app, going to be for iOS, iPad, Mac, and Windows. It's going to sync things like passwords, Wi-Fi passwords, pass keys, generated codes, and other information that will sync across your devices.
Yeah, I'm glad this is becoming more accessible. I do not share that 1Password hater position that I think has become common among the Mac nerds. 1Password still works fine for me. It was funny today though, as I was watching the keynote, I forget what I had to do. I was like logging into LinkedIn or something. I needed to get my 1Password code or my one-time password code. So I opened up 1Password and it said I had no records because I got into some bug on my phone where it like locks every 2 weeks. You have to re-enter your big long master password. And somehow I got into a state where all of my vaults were locked, but I wasn't on the screen that let me enter my password. But anyways, it's great that they brought it to Windows. When are they going to bring it to Android? I think that something like this always needs a fallback. So 1Password does have a web app that you can use. It's a bit of a pain in the ass because you have to enter your password every time. And I think like on each device you use it on, you have to do an extra special dance. But having that, no, backdoor is not the right word, but having that functionality is super important. Like if you're on your parents' computer and you want to like enter your 32 character whatever password on it, having that functionality is super key. Linux work computers. Oh, my work computers let me install apps.
Yeah.
So I don't see myself moving, but I'm glad it's getting more functionality. I am jealous of some of the integrations that it can do that 1Password can't do.
Yeah, to me, this is a prime example of the like Apple made this feature for your parents. Yeah. Like I don't think hardcore guys, and we're pretty hardcore here, let's be honest, Dan. Hardcore guys like us are probably not going to switch, but my mom who uses exclusively her iPad or her iPhone, and now she is the kind of, it drives me crazy. Anytime an app, because like Chrome will do it where it'll pop up, would you like to save your password? And you're saving it like to your Google account. And then as far as like, you want to save your password, and you're saving it, like she'll just always hit save password. And so they're like a bunch of passwords saved everywhere. And I'm like, boy, the ability to sort of streamline it in a simple way that she can use and understand because it's right in the OS. Because I've tried to get her on 1Password and it didn't go well. So I think for someone like that who needs password management but can't be overcomplicated, I think it's kind of exciting.
One other cool feature I saw online related to this was, and apparently this is an open source thing and 1Password and other OSs can implement this, but there's a new, do you use passkeys at all actually, Sean?
Yes, okay, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's good in 1Password. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. So there's a new feature where when you log in, I don't know if it's when you log in or when you sign up, but there's a feature now where the website can like say, to the client, I can generate a passkey for you right now, and the client can transparent to the user accept. So now in your password manager / operating system, you just have a passkey, and next time you log in, it will just use it. It will not ask you for your password. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's started clunky, but I have seen it getting better and easier as more sites use it. And I just hate doing the text me a one-time password thing, which drives me crazy. Yeah. So the less we do that, no, I love it. And it seems like this is going to be interesting. Also, I have on my list of automatic window tiling, which Windows has had for a decade. I'm just the ability to drag it to the side, and I miss that. That's probably my number one Windows feature that I miss not having on Mac.
Well, Sean, there's this free app called Rectangle. Are you aware of this?
I've used it. And it's fine. But I want it natively. I'm excited. We'll see how well it works. There's keyboard shortcuts and all kinds of stuff. But this is another one of those. I felt like a lot of the announcements were like, oh, you're doing the thing the other thing's been doing for a while, which there's no shame in that. But
and similarly, the built into the OS background removal feature, zooms is always pretty shitty. And the Apple webcams are not great, but hopefully they can do a better job.
Well, like you said, it's that same technology that's making the pictures into spatial pictures. So, if the machine learning is really that good, maybe that'll be nice. So that's why all this stuff together is and then Safari, I don't really use Safari, but new features, highlights, updates to reader mode, a viewer mode for on-page video content, etc. I'm just excited. I think it's just going to be a nice update.
Yeah. That was Apple Pay and third-party browsers also on that slide. Amazing.
I literally have it written on my list of things I want to talk about, because that was one on the slide where I'm like, yes! Oh, I'm very excited for that.
I use Safari to buy things on websites that is not Amazon, because I always hope that the little Apple Pay icon is going to pop up.
Yeah, that is a very nice addition. Yeah, I'm excited for that. God, it's gonna be great. We're gonna have some fun with this. Are you a beta guy?
No, but I was thinking about it. If I had an iPad that could run this OS, I would put it on there. But womp womp. I guess to go back to iPad, I do not, because my 2017 iPad does not make the cut. So, and I'm certainly not going to install it on my Mac that I use for everything, including work. Do I really want to install it on my phone? I don't know. We'll see. Are you a beta guy?
I was at one point. And I do have an iPad, so maybe I will. At work, I have an iPad that's just mine to use, and nobody cares if I fuck around with it. So maybe I'll put the beta on it and try some of these things. But not on any of my main stuff. No, I don't need any of these things that badly. All right, let's talk about the big boy, iOS 18.
Yeah.
Get excited. We've got a lot of great additions. We're going to skip intelligence. We're going to save that for last, just like the announcement. But let's go through this in no particular order. Customizable home screens, more flexible icon placement. So now they won't automatically fill up. You can have them kind of staggered all over the place. In dark mode, the icons will go on a darker tone, and a theme engine will let you universally apply a chosen color across your app grid for deeper personalization. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't see a use for this yet. Have we talked about? Did you mention the color thing? Sorry, I was trying to find the slide.
Yes.
The color thing, I'm definitely going to play with. I am surprised that they did this. I think I'd be curious from your marketing take, right? Because is Netflix gonna love being turned green instead of red? And even are there legal issues with that? I don't know what the deal with this is, but you go to any company's website and it's like, oh, here's our marketing materials and here's our brand guidelines, the Netflix logo, it's in this font and it should never be like this and it should always be like this. And these companies all have their logos on their app icons. So that I'm curious how that will. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't matter, and Apple can do whatever the heck it wants. But I'll play around with that part.
You're basically right. I mean, listen, as a brand, no, I wouldn't want somebody. But what are you going to do? Not be on iPhone? Like, you kind of like don't have a choice. And at least I think they're doing it tastefully in a way where it's like you have to change all the icons, so they're all going to be yellow. So it's not like you're picking and choosing. This is definitely one of those. Android's had it for a while, so let's get it type features.
Really?
I was pretty surprised that the one thing I thought they were going to do was, because now you can basically press and hold on an icon and you can choose light mode, dark mode, custom color mode. I'm surprised they didn't give developers the option to have multiple options for app icons. Because I know some apps let you do it in the settings. It's kind of buried in the app and you got to refresh and all this stuff. But I was surprised that if you're going to let people customize it, give the app developers control to like what is their version of a dark icon, not Apple algorithmically doing it. I thought that would have made an easy API, but I think it's cool. I'm going to play around with it. I think we've talked before about the home screen when they updated that, the new contact cards. I think all the customizable stuff's been pretty tasteful and fun and has worked out. So I think it's going to be good.
And was this where they talked about they had a similar thing with a photo, like you could take a photo and turn it into like a poster? Or I was only half paying attention while this was happening. There was something where like take a photo and you can turn it into your lock screen, but then the lock screen will like orient itself to the color palette of the photo you've chosen.
Yes, so when you select the icon colors, the first time you do it, it will do what it thinks works best with the photo you've chosen as your backdrop. Then you can change it after that.
Yeah, that's cool. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think for people who like the customizable thing, I think they're going to enjoy it. Control Center is also getting some customizability, multiple pages of controls. With media and smart home controls getting key placements, third-party apps will be able to offer Control Center integrations. So you'll be able to totally customize that, make the icons big, make them small, their buttons, their icons, they're interactive, there's multiple pages, and you can replace the default camera and flashlight icons on the lock screen with whatever Control Center toggles you prefer. So this one's going to really depend on the developers to offer some options for you, but you'll really be able to flesh out Control Center.
It's funny. I think is good. You pulled up that screenshot from the 2014 WWDC with that. Was that the original Control Center? Maybe.
I think so.
And the whole point was that here's the settings that you access most frequently, and we're just going to put them right here in this thing. And I use Control Center all the time. And so it's funny now. It's sort of like an interesting product management lesson, because like now you look at Control Center, it's not half of your screen, it's your entire goddamn screen. And you already have to scroll down a little bit. Like even on this is not the biggest iPhone, I guess, but the default view, the icons are cut off a little bit on the bottom. You have to scroll just a little bit. So now they're just like, there's multiple pages. And like, well, what setting would you, it's just, it's funny.
Yeah.
And like, what's the difference between that and the swipe to the left thing where you get the widgets to the side?
I guess it's specific actionable buttons is how I understand it, where I guess you could make a widget that does the same thing, but it's really designed for, and this is, so I'm going to say this especially around Apple Intelligence, there was a lot of vague things about the announcement today. And one of them I didn't understand was the Control Center piece. And is it like each app can have its own page in Control Center, or you make the pages, or some of the pages are defaulted? Like there was a little bit of vaguity, and exact vaguity, just a word I made up, in terms of how customizable it is and exactly how it's going to work. But I think in theory, as the OS becomes more complicated, this is a way to simplify it in terms of specific settings and things you toggle on and off, and smart home stuff and things like that. So I think it's good. I don't think it's offensive or going to make the software worse by any stretch.
I just think it's funny.
It's all circular. Messages. We got some new stuff. I learned today that that thing you do when you tap a message and can say like haha or smash. It's called a tap back. I didn't know that. That was new to me. But you can now use any emoji in a tap back response. You can also use new formatting options in your messages, like bolding, underlining, strike through, and italicizing. You can message via satellite when you don't have a connection, which is cool. RCS support is coming. So it'll better integrate with other non-iMessage users. You can schedule messages in the future. I think that's all of the messages stuff.
That's a big one. And tap back with any. You mentioned tap back with any emoji. Yeah, that's cool. My other. If I had to pick an actual feature that I can immediately imagine how I would use it, that's my number 2 favorite after the window snapping.
Yeah, it's like in Slack and some of these other apps you can do that, and it's a lot of fun. So,
Yep.
Well, listen, if you're excited for that, Dan, wait till you hear about Genmoji. Then you're really going to be...
Well, we'll get to it.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Let's see. Categorization in Mail, which is like Gmail. They've had that. Game mode minimizes background activity for best performance and lowers latency with connected gamepads or iPads, AirPods. Photos app, big update. New design, face sorting, the ability to pin collections, automatically grouping people and pets into collections, and just a overall different look. Yeah, that's.
I'm excited for that stuff. Like, I think Apple should be doing more of the making use of your photos for you. And like, I think it'd be really cool. I've been taking all these photos of sunsets from that park down the road. And Lena and I the other day were like, I wonder what the best photo we've ever taken from this point is. And I think, again, going to the Apple Intelligence thing, I bet next year I'll be able to ask it that question. I think I'll be able to say, show me the best photo I've taken from here. But being able to scroll through various collections that are automatically created, because I think people, we take more photos than we have the bandwidth to sort of deal with.
Yeah, listen, if it just automatically said the following 8,000 images are junk and just put them into a folder labeled junk, that would be great. I'd settle for just that.
Well, that's everything that's not in a collection, probably. And it did say that, right? Like, didn't it say, like, oh, your yesterday view, it filters out the photos you took of receipts. The other thing I do, where I take a photo of the number on every hotel room and the license plate of every rental car that I rent. It'd be nice to filter those out. Also be nice to say, hey, dingus, what's my license plate? And have it just figure that out. That'd be cool too.
In the Colby Rabideau feels bad arena, whenever I watch them talk about photos and she's like, oh, and then you can see here, this grouped when I went hiking up a mountain last year, and then this is in our trip to Patagonia, and I'm like, well, how does it work for boring people who don't do anything? Like, how will it, like, it's not going to group all my shit into exciting folders, Sean took a picture of a flower in his garden. Like, that's
exciting. That's like 90% of the photos I've taken in the last 2 months.
And I think it's like that, and like another picture of your cat laying down.
Very exciting, I don't know, Sean. I think you should be sharing more photos of your cat.
I never post on Instagram anymore, and I posted on Blue Sky the other day. That was my big excitement.
Oh,
that's like my app of choice right now for posting.
Interesting. All right, I need to get back on Blue Sky then.
Yes, I gave up on Mastodon and Threads, and I'm really just focused on Blue Sky. I'm in my Blue Sky phase. All right, Dan, I think it's time we talk about AI.
I just read your Blue Sky post.
Yes.
What was the deal with the fireworks recently? Was it like a D-Day fireworks thing? What the hell was going on?
I live in an area where they do shoot off fireworks all summer long for no reason. It was just strange because it was a Sunday night, and they shot off got like 2 houses down, like so close to me. And I know he shoots them off all year, so it's not like a surprise. He shot off 1 firework the whole evening. A firework. I said, maybe is this like a test or like some kind of warning to the rest of us? Like, this is only the beginning. I'm not sure, but If he does,
it happened.
I'd rather him do one every
us.
night.
I think people go to that park where we take the photos from and shoot off fireworks. And we had one firework at, I don't know, midnight or later, I think it was. I was like, what the hell? You're a month early.
Yeah, I live within earshot of a neighborhood where gunfire isn't super common, but is common enough. I know the difference between a gunshot and fireworks. So I do hear that from time to time, but thankfully I saw the fire, and then like that was it. So again, I should have taken a picture and put it in my Photos app. We've got Apple Intelligence, Dan. We've talked about it on the show in the past. We knew this was coming. What did it actually mean? Let's start with, in no particular order, let's start with Siri. Siri's getting an update, a design update that's going to make it more prominent. A glowing multicolored border will be on screen when you're using it. They say Siri should be more capable of understanding users when they stumble, and it will maintain the context of the conversation between requests, meaning that you can ask follow-up questions that use the original information. You can make requests by simply describing an app or a feature, and Siri's capable of understanding and fetching relevant information. You'll also now be able to type to Siri, which actually may be in my top 3 most exciting things announced here, because I don't like talking to devices.
So you've been able to do that on the Mac, I think. I remember talking about it on this show.
Is that true?
But I don't think I even have Siri enabled on my... Oh, here we go. Let's see.
No, when I click on it, just the audio prompt comes up. Maybe there's a third-party tool that allows you to do that. While you're looking that up, Apple Intelligence gives Siri's on-screen awareness to take action and understand things on your screen. It also has the ability to take hundreds of in-app actions using a new API to allow it to perform complex tasks. There will also be, maybe we'll talk about this more in a minute, for more elaborate requests, Siri will be able to tap into ChatGPT's GPT-4o model to answer more complex questions.
So I think the thing from this that is going to be the thing that everyone does next year is the whole screen thing. That the interface is now, my read on that was that you're using your voice is ancillary. You're using your phone, and you have something on your phone that you want to do something with, and you can use your voice to do that. But actually the important part is what is on your phone, and that is like what is on your phone ambiently, but I think most powerfully what is on my phone right now. And just like how like we have the little tiny home pods around, and now I set way more timers than I did before, because I'm like, oh, it's so easy. Speaking in the air, I know the special command line invocation, exactly how to phrase it so I get the correct timer with the name I want. But the ability to do stuff like that while you're doing something, and know that like I could say, hey, Dingus, show me all the photos I have of the person I'm talking to right now. And know that it will get that, instead of, it's not that hard, but like, okay, open up the Photos app, and I'm going to like, ooh, did I tag like Sean in Photos? Did I call him Sean James, or did I call him Sean? Having all that work, I think, is going to be the new UI for all of this stuff. And I think actually it puts ChatGPT at a huge disadvantage, because I think this is going to be so much easier than the copy pasting, or like, oh, I'm going to upload this photo to OpenAI and have it do something. Or I'm going to paste this, code or PDF into it. Having that context is going to be super duper huge. And I don't know if, maybe some other, I don't actually think there'll be another app that will come out and supplant this, because I think you have to have a platform to be able to provide all this context in an efficient way. So I was stoked about that. I think that's brilliant. And it's like so simple. It's like, oh, the border of your screen flashes. Like, what's the big deal? Yeah. It's like, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, the current way of doing it is kind of annoying. This is just another great example of what Apple does best, where they don't always invent things whole cloth. They just make them easier for the common man to use. Like, this is one of the first AI demonstrations I've seen. Of course, I was just good at presenting stuff. Where it all was like, oh yeah, I when I was watching it, I thought of this example of the amount of times I pick up my phone for what are seemingly simple requests. The other day, I had ordered some the lights you stick in the ground in your garden and they light up, whatever, the and I ordered a set from Home Depot, and it felt like it was taking forever to get here. So I opened up my phone, I opened up the Home Depot app, I went to my purchases and my orders, I clicked on the tracking link, I went to the UPS website to get the date of delivery. Theoretically, and again, constantly said it could do this, so we'll see if it actually does. But in a world where I can say, where's my Home Depot order? I guess it could have gone into my email and also scraped the tracking number there. But the idea that it could just pop out, it's being delivered on, the live data, it's being delivered on X date. Like, those are the kind of simple, I don't need it to write a novel. I need to pull really simple requests that in total may only take me 30 seconds to do, but I do 100 of them every day. That's
and imagine the things you're like, wait, where did I order? Right, I got some weird Shopify website. I was thinking about ordering a really nice hose from a company in Oregon. They make great hoses, but they just have a Shopify website. And if I bought more things than I do, and I wasn't super stoked about this hose, I might not remember where I got it from. And oh, well, what was the email? This happens to me all the time for other things.
Mm-hmm.
What search term can I paste into Gmail that is going to surface some byproduct sort of gas of some digital activity I did, which will then lead me to the thing that I want, like tickets for fairies and concerts and stuff like that. I'm I think it was in February. So when I was going to scroll through all my emails in February, having something that could do that more efficiently would be really interesting. And I think they talked a lot about the index or the semantic index something. I'm curious exactly what that looks like, and I hope that this week we'll get some more information on that. And it sounds like that's open to developers too, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, this to me is very much maybe you can put Vision Pro in this category. There have been other Apple products of, we're going to put it out and see what happens. I don't think this is a slam dunk the day it comes out in the fall. They might not even not turn on every feature, to be totally honest. It wouldn't surprise me. I think in iOS 19 or iOS 20, it really starts gelling. This will not be an overnight thing. And I think they were careful to not too aggressively overpromise.
Yes, but if I scroll down in Spotlight and search for Home Depot, already I get some results today of, here's where Home Depot is mentioned in my mail. Here's a photo I took that has the word Home Depot in it in very small text. Wow. And so I think that part actually is sort of, I feel pretty confident about their ability to deliver on that, because this isn't like an API they introduced last year. This has been around for a long time. The ability for apps to express things to other apps and into Spotlight.
Yep.
And developers have wanted to do that because they're like, oh, we want you to swipe down on our app and open it because you happen to search for banana or whatever. Baseball. And they're like, oh, baseball. We have baseball over here on StubHub. And that's great. That oversharing is excellent now that there's a curator. So I feel I'm very bullish on that part.
Strongly agree. Other features that fall under this are on iPad and Mac, writing tools, a system-wide feature that summarizes text in emails and other apps, helps automatically draft replies to emails. It will help you adjust your writing in tone and in content, grammatically, all those sort of things we've seen AIs do. I don't think there was anything really earth-shattering there, other than it's integrated at the OS level, so it'll work across to all apps.
Yeah, this part I'm not excited about. I think this gets into the AI slop business where, kind of like how 5 years ago I don't know if anyone's ever talked about this, or maybe it was even more like 15 years ago. People say, oh, well, if you really care, you should write someone a letter. Like, and maybe it wasn't even handwritten, but I'm sure at one point it was like a handwritten letter. Like, that's how you show you really care, because it takes more time. And as a person receiving a communication, the more time that I know that you spent on it, the more highly I should prioritize reading it, to be quite frank. That's why, like, you ignore spam. It's not because it might not be useful, but it's because, definitionally, this person did not, put any time into it, and it certainly wasn't personalized to you over much. And that's why you read an email like, oh, Sean, I would love to hop on a call with you to discuss how XYZ could help your business. It's like, boom, like, nope, that is a form letter ignored. And I think this is just going to permeate that sort of mindset to more parts of our life, which I am not looking forward to.
I'll have a lot to say about AI slop when we get to image generation in a moment. I agree with you, Dan. And some enterprising person is going to make an email client that rates the emails on the amount of AI used to write it, and just segment all of them into a folder. I agree. Wholesale rewriting kind of bums me out. I did like, they showed a feature, forgot the name of it because there were a lot of features, where instead of rewriting it, it would highlight certain words and phrases and suggest alternates. Yes. Based on the grammar. And that, to me, is a more novel use. And by the way, apps like that already exist. They have for a while. It's in Word. Grammarly. Maybe a more advanced version. But that kind of stuff is cool. I agree with you. The wholesale, like, make it sound more friendly. I'm like, sound like an ass. Like, that's the whole, what you wanted to do anyway. Yeah, so there was that. Image generation. I know you're excited, Dan. First you had emoji. Then we had memoji. Now we have Genmoji. AI generated emoji. You'll just type in a prompt and it'll generate a little emoji that will match your prompt. You'll be able to put it anywhere you put an emoji now, including in messages and as a tap back. In addition to Genmoji is the image playground. It can be integrated into other apps, but on its own, you'll be able to put in key phrases and words and other contexts, and it will automatically generate an image based on those in one of three styles. As a, let's see if I remember them all, as a sketch, as a animated character look, and as a third one I'm not thinking of. So it won't be photorealistic. And I'm sure Apple is, and that's one thing I will point out about all the AI generation stuff they talked about. It's all the safest, most boring shit you can imagine. And I think that's why ChatGPT can do all the crazy stuff, because you're going to generate pictures of kittens and babies with this thing. And I think the second you ask it to do anything more ridiculous, it's going to shut you down. I think this is like training wheels for AI, which is fine. And the stuff it generated looked like crap, but I guess someone's going to use it. I don't know. Really the only thing about the whole announcement that super bummed me out was the image generation stuff and some of the text generation, because it was just like so useless. The examples were like, oh, when it's your mom's birthday, you can generate a picture for wearing a cape like Supermom. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
I was not happy.
Yeah. I do think that, much like the highlighting the screen when you engage the lady in the tube, this approach to image generation is going to be what all the companies do.
Yes,
it's very obvious. It's finger watermarking, but stylistically. And Apple loves this too, because it's like, well, we can do like the Apple illustration look, and now there's like a brand associated with it. And as long as you can actually do this and you can't sort of prompt inject something to turn it off, which will be interesting to see people try, I think that's the correct approach. And similarly, I'm actually less worried about the images, because no one sends me hand illustrations of anything. So now when people send this to me, I will not be confused as to whether or not it is AI generated, because of course it is. And that actually makes me feel better, because I'm like, okay, well, this is just like visual cortex information that the human brain is really good at ingesting and discarding. So I'm actually less concerned about that. Now I'm not an artist, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask.
Well, and I agree. From like a Dan, you want to send me an AI generated image in the same way I'd send you a GIF. That doesn't bother me as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's the like, and it integrates with Pages. So when you draw something in Notes, you can click and it'll make an AI version of that looks worse than what you drew. Like if these start showing up in PowerPoints and stuff, like that's where that bugs me more.
Seen that in the clip art, the built-in Microsoft Word clip art,
because AI art just looks bad. Like someday these models will make shit that looks good and realistic, and that's fine. I hate the stock photography industry should be put out of business because they overcharge and they're huge pains in the asses about it. So I get it. But at the same time, the models don't look good. They look cheap and they make things look worse. And I've started noticing YouTube thumbnails are starting to use this AI image. And, I should find this. There's a new Twitter account. I don't know if it's on other platforms. It's called, what's the name of it? It's like Insane AI Facebook Slop. And it's maybe my new favorite thing. I will have to see. Insane Facebook AI Slop at Facebook AI Slop. And it's just screenshots of the like crazy AI stuff that's just like automatically generated and thrown on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I was going to like, Twitter is my Facebook AI slop. Like my entire timeline now is like, look at this video of, this person doing this. And then there's like the community note, this video is AI generated. It does not actually show this person doing this. So I feel like I've had that experience.
There's a lot of photos of like Jesus, like literally fighting the devil, which I find very funny. So I actually do recommend the follow. It does make me laugh. Anyway, so I don't want more of that. And so I guess because Apple's limiting the styles you can do, and I'm sure limiting some of the terms, it probably won't get too crazy. I just don't know what the upside is. I get it if you're just sending it and, it's a message sticker generator and you make a little, but to have an API where you can integrate it into any app, I'm like, man, anyway, I don't know. I don't know where that part of AI is going. I've always said generative AI is kind of a bummer. But the sort of intelligence AI, that stuff to me is exciting. I don't need it to create things. I need it to sort and organize and present things. And that's the part I focus on and I'm excited about. This generative stuff is weird and I don't get it.
Agreed. I get it. I just think it's going to be, we aren't going to like where we end up with it.
Well, I
similarly
just think
like the whole thing we were talking about at the beginning of the show, like, our content was probably trained on the AI. I don't know if people are grappling with the fact that you can't train data on things written after 2023 without causing, I have to imagine, some sort of insane feedback loop that would take you years to detect probably. So, and never mind like, the whole journalism industry and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, to me, it's just like all the other cryptocurrency, and Colby forgot to set his clocks back for daylight savings time several months ago. Hi, Colby.
Hello, fellow kids.
Thank you for hopping on, my man.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I've
it's all right. We only talked about the entire thing, but
what?
We were literally wrapping up. We talked. Colby, is there anything? This is perfect. So we spent the last hour talking about everything from WWDC. Colby, is there anything you'd like to specifically talk about or add? No, nothing stood out to you.
I haven't even looked at the recap or whatever. Oh. I don't even know what happened. I'm gonna watch the episode after it airs, and I'll know.
You should.
Colby, 11 years we've been doing these WWDCs. 11 years.
This is probably the first one I missed.
Listen, it's not too late to kick you off the show. We can still do it. No, we wouldn't dare. Listen, your life might be better off because you didn't watch it. But yeah, this will be fun. You'll have to listen and then circle back next week to get your opinion. I think that'd be great.
Now, one thing we didn't talk about, and this was the feature I was most looking forward to, is removing objects from images automatically.
Yes, it's called Google Magic Eraser, and it is a feature now coming to iPhoto, to Photos, where yes, you can erase the background of photos. I'm surprised they didn't roll out more AI photo stuff. Google's really sort of ate their lunch on that. The other thing I was going to mention that I actually thought was interesting, though we won't know for a while what it actually means, is the idea they came out and said, OpenAI, ChatGPT will be integrated, but we're going to allow other models to eventually into the ecosystem. And to me, that's really interesting, where you can get into some of the really specific models or even custom models. We've talked about that on the show before. Imagine a marketplace of models that you could shop around, and one might work better for you than the other. That, to me, is actually kind of pretty interesting.
Yes, and next time we should talk about the private cloud stuff. That is sort of groundbreaking stuff.
I would love to hear your expertise on it, Dan, because I sort of understood it. But that's great. We'll be able to talk about this more next time. Colby, I really hate to do this because you just got here. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the show?
No, sorry I'm late. I have no excuse.
Listen, we still love you. Colby, you can be here for an exciting announcement. Now, starting from our last episode forward, all of our YouTube videos have full closed captioning. Isn't that exciting?
Wow.
It only took us 384
That's so
episodes.
Exciting.
But we're trying to be more accessible.
Are we announcing a partnership with OpenAI?
Believe it or not, our fantastic friends at Riverside.fm generate those for us. So thank you to those guys over there. They do great work. They also are now, for the last 6 months, they've also been generating the show descriptions. I have not been writing those. You can tell by just reading. No, go read them. They're written insanely. I just think it's funny. I think I should. And by the way, I actually do edit them. I don't just straight post them. But maybe I should pull up the one from last week and just read it straight.
Are the ones on the website the ones from Riverside?
Yeah. Lightly edited.
They cover a wide range of topics, including home improvement, power washing, AI PCs, and technology challenge.
And the Riverside, not to get too much, Riverside automatically does a bunch of AI stuff with every episode. And so they do a summary, they do keywords, takeaways, and they do notable sound bites as well, like quotes, which is very funny to me because they pick the most uninteresting. So quotes from last week's episode. All I do is stare at my phone constantly all day long. It's not ideal. I like that. The default settings are so bad on TVs. The stuff looks like crap. And AI is inherently on some level creepy. So thank you to our good friends at Riverside for that. But with that, we're careening towards the end here. Folks should visit don'tpanic.io. It's our fantastic website. All of our episodes are there, including the video now with captioning, the audio, and of course, all the subscription information wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. You should definitely check us out. don'tpanicshow@gmail.com is our email. And be sure to check out the Up for Debate feed. We just did our summer reading list. I don't have the books here. I'll do a little spoiler alert for you guys. One of the books that was pitched was O.J. Simpson's If I Did It, the book where he basically confessed to murdering those people. Did we pick it to read this summer? The answer won't surprise you. You're going to want to check that out over at Up for Debate. It's an interesting list this year. That episode is live right now. But we're over time. We got to wrap it up here. I'm sure Dan's stomach is grumbling for dinner. On behalf of these guys, I'm Sean. Thank you for being here for another WWDC. We'll see you next time with another great episode of Don't Panic.